We actually don't have anyone online via Zoom, so I'm just going to skip that part. But our procedures for public hearing begin with a presentation from the planning team. We'll next then go to the applicant and then the representative of the Registered Neighborhood Association. This will then be followed by questions from the hearing examiner. After that, we'll proceed to public testimony, starting with those who are in person, and then those who signed up on the sign-up sheet in advance, and anyone who does join via Zoom. If you are attending through your telephone on Zoom, you can type *9 to raise your hand. To start out with, each speaker should state their name and address for the record. And then each member of the public is only allowed 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. And then finally, the applicant is allowed time for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the hearing examiner will deliberate and render a decision. And so for this afternoon, looking at the agenda, we have accepting minutes from our last meeting and then 2 items of new business. The first is a variance at 1175 West Lake Hazel Road to allow an electric fence on the property. We are recommending denial, so we will hear that one. And then the second and last item is a variance over at 9700 South Blue Cloud Lane to deviate from some sign standards for both wall and freestanding signs. Planning team is also recommending denial on that. We did receive some late correspondence, which I believe you received, and we do have the neighborhood association here, the South Eisenman Neighborhood Association, signed up as part of that public hearing. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. My name is Milt Gillespie. I am an independent decision maker hired by the city of Boise and approved by the city council. I make decisions on variances and administrative appeals. Any request to reconsider these decisions made today must be formally requested in writing pursuant to the city code. Tonight, we utilize a consent agenda. This means if the applicant agrees with the staff report and if there's no public opposition, the item will be placed on the consent agenda. All items that are placed on the consent agenda are approved with one motion without further public comment. The only thing we'll do on the consent agenda today is approve the minutes from the January meeting. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a full public hearing in the order Kevin just detailed a few minutes ago. So thank you all for attending. Again, my name is Milt Gillespie, and I'll be the hearing examiner this afternoon. So our first order of business is to create the consent agenda. So without objections from myself, the January 5th, 2026 hearing examiner minutes are placed on the consent agenda, and that's it. So the consent agenda is approved. The next we'll hear item 1, CVA 25-00064, located at 1175 West Lake Hazel Road. Mr. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Gillespie. The item before you is a variance request to allow an electric fence on 16.12 acres in an I1-WUI-O industrial light with wildland urban interface overlay zone. The site is located south of the intersection of Lake Hazel Lane and Gowan Road. It contains a warehouse that is currently surrounded by an 8-foot tall chain link fence with barbed wire. Barbed wire fences are prohibited within the WUI overlay as they contain points that may cause injury to animals. Further, electric fences as proposed are outright prohibited within the city of Boise due to their potential to cause bodily or environmental harm. A variance is not an appropriate method for or to process to allow something that's outright prohibited in the development code. Additionally, no evidence was presented that proves that a physical constraint is present on site that hinders the ability to meet the applicable standards. Therefore, no justification of a hardship can be presented. This requested variance meets none of the applicable findings as shown on your screen here. The request would decrease public health, safety, and welfare by introducing a fire risk within a protected overlay by endangering animals, the public, and the environment. In conclusion, the planning team recommends denial of the variance request, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Is the applicant present? Your turn. So, and by the way, you both can speak if you want to within the applicant's speaking window. No, but how long do you think you need? No. Yeah, he can have 5 minutes too. You know what? You can both have 10. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. We'll put 10 on the clock and see where you get. No, we will. Well, and go ahead.
Are you able to see my presence?
I'm good. Just give your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Derek Thomas.
Mr.
I'm with Amrock, and my address is 4417 Tucker Drive, Folsom, California. And I traveled up here to Idaho, to Boise, to represent our client in
Thank you
this
for
matter.
being here.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Gillespie, staff, thank you for the time today. We're here for a variance request on behalf of our valued customer, Old Dominion Freight Line. They're an LTL trucking company with a site at the address 1175 West Lake Hazel, out on the outskirts of town, out there past the airport. And we're here today to request that our customer be allowed to install an electrified security fence around the perimeter of the property. This fence, it's important to note, the security system goes behind the existing fence. So we're not really the fence. We're the security alarm system that goes behind it. So it's really important to call out we're an alarm system, first and foremost. Just a little bit about Amrock. We have over 8,000 installations in over 1,200 jurisdictions in all 50 states across the country. We provide monitored security alarm technology on manufacturing, commercial, and industrial sites where goods and inventory are stored in outdoor lots. As I mentioned, our system sits behind the existing fence, so there's no risk of accidental contact by wildlife or humans, and we own and maintain the system on behalf of our customer. So we provide a full suite of services in connection to the security alarm system. Really quickly, how our system works. First and foremost, it's all about deterrence. The neon yellow sign there, we put this at 30-foot intervals around the perimeter of the fence that's visible from the exterior of the property. It says warning, electric fence, 7,000 volts. This is to deter potential unauthorized intrusion onto the property. Deterrence, first and foremost, is the most powerful aspect of the system. If someone were to breach the exterior perimeter fence, say they cut it or scale it, then there's a system of wires that go behind the fence. And if you hit the wires, you trigger an alarm system. And you will receive a momentary, brief shock. It's akin to a static shock. It's not anything substantial. I've touched it myself. It's not pleasant. It's meant to deter, but it's medically safe. Once you hit those wires, if you break into the property, it'll basically set off an alarm that will then trigger a notification to a monitoring alarm company. And they will, if it's a verified alarm, a verified intrusion and an alarm, they will then dispatch law enforcement to respond to the intrusion. Why do customers such as Old Dominion Freight Line want this security system at their site? It's because existing security measures fail. You can see in the left picture there, a chain link fence that's been cut, and there's been some makeshift boxes and debris that's been placed over the top of the cut as a way to basically patch it. But it's very easy to cut chain link fencing. You see in the two right pictures taken by cameras. In the top right, someone on the property who broke in, who's stealing equipment and loading it onto a truck. cameras, and in the bottom, same thing. Someone on the property, preparing to steal things. Cameras only record it. They don't stop it, right? So it's all about deterrence. And that's where our system comes into play. Typical industries served by this security alarm technology are trucking companies such as Old Dominion. We do landscaping, construction, vehicle rentals, collision and auto repair. Basically, any commercial business in a commercial manufacturing industrial zone that it has to store large equipment in outdoor lots. Those are our customers. How it works, like I mentioned, there's warning signs posted 30 feet in 30-foot intervals around the perimeter of the entire fence. So anybody who is thinking about breaking into the property, they're going to see these signs, right? If they reach the perimeter fence, they'll set off the security alarm, which is powered by a 12-volt DC battery. This is like akin to your car battery. This is not high voltage, continuous current. This is low voltage, pretty safe stuff when it comes to like electrical shock. And the pulse frequency is very brief and it's akin to a static shock. Like if you touch the door and you get shocked, stronger than that, but the reaction's the same. You pull back and that's what it feels like. Our system is compliant with international safety standards, and it's certified by a nationally recognized testing laboratory, which is SGS. The main international standard that our system meets is the International Electrotechnical Commission standard 60355-2-76. This sets safety and operational standards, and we comply with those just to guarantee safety of the system. This here is a snippet from a report by Dr. Kroll, who has a PhD. He's an expert on the subject. And I included this because there was concern raised in the staff report about wildlife and humans potentially being harmed by this system. That is factually inaccurate. These systems do not cause harm to humans or wildlife. Let me repeat that. These systems do not cause harm to humans or wildlife. Here's what the system looks like. This is another national customer, Penske. You can see it's just a system of suspended security wires behind a wrought iron fence in this case. You can see the signs placed at 30-foot intervals, and they're very cleanly installed. This is not a visual blight by any stretch of the imagination. So if this variance is granted, this is what the system will look like out at Old Dominion. The benefits to the community speak for themselves. We keep our customers safe. It allows law enforcement to prioritize their resources on higher priorities. It allows normal business operations. The system is powered by solar power which charges batteries, so it's not connected to the main grid. So it's sustainable from an environmental standpoint. And that also supports the safety of the system because it's not connected to the grid. And I would say, most importantly, it's an effective solution. This is why ODFL, I think we have over 200 installations across the country, and safer communities are better communities, I would submit. Getting to the variance itself. There are 4 criteria, right? The site faces undue hardship. Respectfully disagree with the staff's contention about it not meeting the criteria. This particular site is very large. It's over 16 acres. It's out in the middle of the countryside, past the airport, well off the main road, which is Goen Road. This site is probably about, 300 yards or so off that road. And so it's sort of obscured and hidden from the main road. And they store millions of dollars of equipment on this site, outdoors, dimly lit, in a remote area that's susceptible to theft. So I would argue that this site does, in fact, face an undue hardship in securing the lot. Secondly, it serves the public interest because we're reducing the risk of property crime, potential threats to employees, and it allows law enforcement to not have to respond to potential crime on a particular parcel of property, which allows them to allocate their resources to better and higher uses and other uses. Thirdly, there's no grant of special privilege. Security is a universal need, and every business has a right, should have a right, to protect itself with reasonable security alarm system means. And that's all the system is. It's not a fence, it's a security alarm system. Lastly, it enhances public safety, health, welfare, and the quiet enjoyment of the property because it deters crime and it allows ODFL, Old Dominion, to continue normal business operations without interruption. Lastly, there's a, this is not technically part of the variance criteria, but I wanted to, it's part of our written submitted materials. Cargo theft, you've probably heard about it in the news. It's on the rise nationally. It's a very serious problem. The financial impacts of cargo theft span over $30 billion. It is a massive, massive problem. And that is why companies like Old Dominion are, want this system. It enhances supply chain continuity, and they also have a partnership with the Homeland Security. This is my last slide here, if I can have just a minute or two more. I would argue that this variance request is a proper avenue, that all the criteria are met. There's, as I mentioned, no risk to harm to humans or wildlife. Fire was called out as a specific risk. Our system is low voltage, like I mentioned. It's not connected to the main building power infrastructure. It's powered by solar power panels, solar power batteries that charge a 12 volt DC battery that's in a locked panel box, so there's no access to it. We performed weed abatement, so to the extent that there's vegetation out there, we take care of that when we do the installation. And with all the thousands of installations we have across the country, fire's never been an incident. And if it were a recurring incident, I would argue we would have no social license to operate in any of these states that we have installations. Very importantly, the Boise Fire Department, this is part of the packet that was submitted by staff towards the end of the packet that you have, Mr. Gillespie. The Boise Fire Department said in its letter that it will approve our system with signage placed on all sides of the property, warning first responders that the fence is electrically charged. As I stated, there is signage. Signage would go around the entire perimeter of the property. And if there were a fire risk, I think the fire department would have raised concerns to that effect. They've raised zero. The Boise Airport staff has raised no concerns or objections. The Boise Parks and Recreation Department had no concerns or comments. The Boise Public Works Department raised no objections. And this is consistent with elements of the Boise Blueprint Plan, which safety is a high priority in that document, as well as retaining business revenue retaining businesses, allowing them to grow, and the tax base that businesses generate for the community. So high level, it's consistent with the Boise Blueprint. So that's my presentation. Happy to answer any questions and welcome our customer up.
Thank you. If you'd like to speak, can you keep your remarks to 5 minutes or less? Okay, go ahead, please. Just put your name and address into that microphone for me and you'll be good to go.
All right, my name is Shane Blackburn. I am the service center manager at Old Dominion Freight Line at the said 1175
Blackburn, welcome.
Lake. Thank you. My home address is 4145 Morning Skyway in Meridian.
Thank you, sir.
Some of my concerns over the last few years, we have had a impound lot put to the west of us. It's about 5 acres right there. There's been more than a couple instances where we've had law enforcement there at that lot, getting in tactical gear. They have brought out guns and that. What went on, I do not know, but it has happened multiple times over the last few years since that's been there. Secondly, I have about just close to 100 employees. My employees are far the most important thing to me as far as being the service center manager. We are a 24/7 operation. I have drivers in the yard at all times hooking and breaking sets. As Derek stated, we have millions of dollars of equipment in there at all time. We just finished a 5-bay shop that was just built, and certificate of occupancy was given to us, I believe, in November of this past year. Along with that, that just adds to the millions of dollars worth of equipment. We will have, tires, tens of thousands of dollars of tires outside. Pretty much, from the lot to the west of us, that stuff can be visible. All our equipment's visible. It's slowly working its way here. We have a 10-acre yard in Hermiston, Oregon, where we had to put electric fence out there. We've had multiple instances over the last few years, but prior to the fence, that they would cut through the chain link fence and get into our trailers, stealing thousands of dollars worth of freight. So again, I think for the safety aspect, this is a great thing for Old Dominion and my employees here locally.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
it. All right. The next step in our process is usually now to hear from a neighborhood association, but there is none out there. So we'll move from there to questions and answers. So I have a question for the designer of the fence, sir. Yeah. So just hop right up there, and you don't have to give your name and rec. Or maybe you do, because they have to take notes. So could you describe this structure? Because you said it is not a fence. Could you just tell me, if I was looking at this, what does it look like? How is it built? Just briefly.
Yes. Are you able to turn it back to the presentation? I'll walk you through it, but there was a picture, I think a pretty good one.
Well, I saw that picture there.
So,
But is the aluminum fence part of your system, the gray?
yeah, so the wrought iron fence, I think is
Right,
what you're
right.
referring to.
Right.
That is at this site, but at Old Dominion, it's a chain link fence.
Right. That's the front fence.
That is the front fence.
And
They have a fence there on site
Right, I
already.
got that. Where's yours?
So ours goes on the interior. So
What does that mean?
within, so you have the existing perimeter fence that goes around the property, right?
Right.
The chain link.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 4 to 8 inches on the interior. So
Right next to though.
it's right next to, but it's about,
This-
and
this
it's anywhere from basically four to about a foot.
And describe to me that structure.
So that structure is a system of security wires that goes behind it, right? They're insulated. They're non-combustible
How far
materials.
apart are they?
They are about 10 inches apart.
So it's like this. It's just a set of wires on metal posts.
Well, the metal posts are on the corners of the property for structural stability. So there's no risk of down lines, because in between the metal posts, you can see here in this photo, that vertical thin gray
I see it.
post. That's a fiber optic, basically like a post, right?
And it's drilled in the ground.
Yes,
Do the wires hang on it? Or are they clipped to it with hangers?
Yeah, no, there are basically pulleys, right? Located on those panels, or excuse me, the posts, the fiberglass.
Yeah.
And those are separated about 20 feet a piece, keeping the system really taut. Did my alarm go off? Can you hear me?
You're fine.
So those are spaced out about 20 feet apart, right? They're stuck into the ground to a sufficient depth where wind or anything like that would not knock them over.
But they're in the ground.
They're in the
They're
ground.
permanent part of that structure.
They are part of the
Right.
yes, they are part of the security alarm system.
But there's no other like chain link or other substantive elements in your system. It's just these wires.
And the fiber
just
optic
these
poles.
poles. Okay, thank you very much. That's exactly what I wanted to know. Thank you. Um, Thank you. I don't have any more questions. Except that I think the dude turned the mics way down, but I'm gonna let him worry about that. Okay, all right, I got it. So I don't have any more questions. So at this point, we are going to go. So then what happens is we're going to have public testimony and then you guys get rebuttal. Is there anyone here today who'd like to testify on this matter? There's no one on the sign up sheet. Is there anyone online who'd like to testify? No one's online. So now we would give you 5 minutes for rebuttal, but I'm not sure what you would be rebutting since you were the person who spoke last. But nevertheless, you have 5 minutes to rebut any evidence or any issues that you might have. Or you can just say, thank you, Mr. Gillespie. I don't need to do that. It's up to you. But you got to do it on the mic. And if you could just give your name and address for the record, sir.
Derek Thomas, Amrock.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Thomas.
I spoke to this, but I just wanted to call out a couple of the concerns that were raised in the staff report that are sort of coupled with the variance, the specific technical variance requirements. And that was around fire risk, risk to humans and wildlife, and that. But I just want to close. The medical science is settled with respect to our technology. It's been verified by experts. It is medically safe for humans. It causes no harm to wildlife. I've never heard of an instance of a bird or an animal coming into contact with our fence. To the extent that a bird did come on top, the top wire is de-energized. And if you know anything about circuitry and electrical, that's the same reason why birds can stay on power lines and they don't get, electrocuted. The way that works, it's the same thing. But besides that, the top wire is not even energized, so there is no risk to, say, birds, other wildlife. There's the existing perimeter fence. There's no way they're going to get through there and really come in contact with the fence. So I just wanted to make crystal clear that there's no risk to wildlife here. And as far as fire goes, there was the argument raised in the staff report that if there was a down line or a spark, I take to mean that the staff report was referring to maybe like an electrical power line or something like that, like a high voltage power line. I would submit that if there's a downed electrical high voltage power line, that is what's causing the risk of fire, not our security alarm system that goes behind an existing chain link fence. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, the matters before myself. Let me, first of all, I'm going to deny the variance for essentially for the reasons stated in the staff report. With respect to the staff report itself, just kind of going through it point by point, on page 4 of 6, this is where the approval criteria and the staff's findings begin. It's unusual that in the summary statement, the city asserts that this, because electric fences are outright prohibited, a variance is not appropriate. I agree with the city's interpretation of the code that they provided in italics. So I do agree with the city's point of view on, is a variance even available here? The city also then says, even if you interpret the variance statute as allowing for this item to be considered. Let's apply the approval criteria. That's essentially what it does in the remaining part of this document. With respect to their finding one, there is undue hardship because of characteristics of the site, and they didn't find any. And I agree with the city. Basically, you have a really large flat parcel. Hardship traditionally means a very oddly shaped parcel or a cliff or a river or really steep ground, something that is a characteristic of the site itself, that is a permanent hardship that requires the variance for the site to be used. I don't think this site meets those characteristics simply because it's located in a remote area and is very big. That is not in and of itself a hardship. What's a hardship is the kind of use you're using, and maybe in certain aspects of how you want to use that site. But I see other opportunities to solve those problems that don't require a variance. Granting the variance will not be in conflict with the public interest. And these comments really apply to the next three criteria. The applicant is made a reasonable argument that in fact that this product isn't a safety or a fire risk. And I understand that. I'm not a technical expert on these issues, and I do rely on the city to assess those. So I am not specifically disagreeing with the city, but I understand that because their points 2, 3, and 4 were founded on safety issues to some extent, I think those are less clear. What is clear, and the city uses this in point number 2 and at other places, is even if this were not an electric fence, if it was just a fence, it still would be too tall, and it would still be prohibited by the code without a variance, which again, you still need the hardship for. So even if this were not electric, I would still deny the variance. So that's my ruling, and that's it. Thank you very much. Okay. So on to item 2, Mr. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Gillespie. The item before you is a variance request to deviate from the wall and wall and freestanding sign standards on 13.7 acres in an I-1 industrial light zone. The site is located between Eisenman Road to the west and I-84 to the east. It's currently under construction for a warehouse use consisting of 2 structures. The applicant's proposal includes 3 variance requests in order to allow allow 2 freestanding signs on one site, with one being oriented towards I-84, and to exceed the amount of wall signage oriented toward I-84. The applicant cites this list of hardships, which generally relate to the limited visibility of the parcel from adjacent streets, and how the variance is needed for additional visibility for marketing and wayfinding, which does not constitute a hardship as defined by the development code. As described within the project report, none of the required findings for a variance have been met, and there are other areas on site that accommodate appropriately sized signage. The proposal can easily be redesigned to comply with the applicable sign standards of the development code. Late correspondence was received from the applicant, which reduced the size and background area of each sign, but retained prohibited orientations. It did not include additional justification of a hardship on site. As you can see here, there's a freestanding sign proposed in the southeast corner, which is a prohibited orientation, being that eastern right side of the screen is bordering I-84 and not near the main entrance. The applicant also proposed a second freestanding sign in the northwest corner, although only one is allowed. Finally, there are 3 wall signs on that between the 2 eastern facades. These 3 wall signs are proposed to face I-84, although only one orientation towards I-84 is allowed. Late correspondence was also received from the South Eisenman Neighborhood Association, which expressed opposition to the request for its potential impacts as described by this list. In conclusion, the planning team recommends denial, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Sir. Please give your name and address for the record. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Gillespie. My name is Jason Mao, Parsons Bailey and Latimer, 800 Main Street here in Boise.
Welcome, Mr. Mao.
Thank you. We're here for our client, Peterbilt. They have proposed and started building 2 buildings on this property that is essentially, let's see, about 1 parcel away from the end of the city limits on the way out of town, heading towards Mountain Home near the what would be the Eisman exit. So as stated, we're seeking approval for variances on the sign locations and the sizes. They pertain to both wall-mounted and freestanding signs on the property. And we're seeking them for improved visibility for safety and identification of the property and as you get on the property. So Peterbilt, the Jackson Group, Peterbilt, they're based in Utah, but have Idaho locations as well, 7 locations. They have this one now that they built on. They have their kind of what they're moving from is out there on off the Gowan exit, and then near the Albertsons there. And so they're relocating to this more industrial at the end of the way, more easier access for their clients that use them, which are all large trucks, hauls on the freeway. The address is the 9700 South Blue Cloud Lane. The Postal Service allows delivery for that address. The city is not recognizing it as a street though, and is calling it an easement, and that has affected the whole development, and where it ended up that they would have to put an entrance for the property, which kind of bottlenecks it, what we call bottlenecks it on this trapezoid, where trucks coming in and then having to access the rest of the property instead of being able to have a entry straight to the service. So we're looking at the ordinance. The requirements, of course, relate to the signs. We have reduced from the 60-foot down to the 15-foot. And then we've also reduced by, I don't know, the oval, I guess, I'm not a math guy, but the area.
It's a lot smaller.
Yeah. So in my mind, it's half the size of what it was in area for the oval. And then it does have this for their kind of local dealership, the JGP sign too. But as we understand, those together are still within the total allowed. So that's one. So we've always looked to do it in the southeast corner, where they've always wanted kind of more of an entry on that side of the property. Here's to where they've had, from my understanding, there was during building an incident that emergency vehicles did have to come to the property, and they didn't recognize the front entrance. They came from the Blue Cloud Lane and entered on the south, kind of that southwest side. I imagine our guys will in the future continue to apply as they're available for another entrance. But until then, they're seeking, they have to order the signs now, I guess. They had the bigger ones that were more equal to all their other branding at their other locations. They did find in the last month or so, another manufacturer that could then do them at a smaller size. So the shape of the property, meant that the buildings then, and because of the entrance, where the entrance was, the shape of the property, how the buildings had to be oriented. And so with that orientation came then the way that they designed them then for signage on the property. The one building, I guess I'm jumping to the wall signs, I'm sorry. So the other sign then, of course, so there is the one, then another one at the now entrance, which is under or it's at 15, and the 15 feet. So those are the two freestanding signs that they would, that they are looking for a variance to be able to put on this property. So here, I guess on the freestanding sign, you drive the corridor right now, the freeway corridor, you coming from, I guess, Eisman going towards the city. You do, even past our property, you do past other kind of freestanding signs that are both bigger in size and not at the entrance. The two main ones that we're seeing is like the Cummings sign, which would be on the east side of the freeway, and then the Michelin sign on the west side of the freeway before you even get to Gowan exit. And those are similar. And we point those out too, because they are kind of the trucking business that needs to, identify where their services are, they're coming. They have they probably have other reasons to stop in Boise, but the main ones, I'm sure, to keep on time would just be service oriented. And so this would be similar. They know, Peterbilt is a recognized name for service for these trucks. And we ask, for that Peterbilt be allowed similar signs for their property so that the trucks on the freeway would recognize where the Peterbilt is. And I think ultimately, as we've designed this property, it is more efficient for all these trucks to get off at the Eisman property. We don't want them getting off at Gowan and coming all the way around for several reasons. And I'm sure, public comment, they would ask that, that trucks, they don't want that. That's the feedback that we've been getting from the neighborhood to ensure that, yeah, we are only asking the people who are getting off at the Eisman exit. And so this helps orient that as well. So getting onto the property now, the building signs, as you come in to the property, here's more of a site. This has where all the signs are. But when you come in and you enter from the north and you're, coming down, it's a 13-acre property, and there's just a need for that orientation in addition to the branding. But the service sign on that south building, that's more of an orientation. We ask that it be allowed for the orientation purposes. They're all smaller. They don't exceed the size anymore. We don't need a size variance, just the fact that there's more signs than what's allowed under the code. And so because of the two buildings, because of the spacing of the two buildings, because of the spacings and the facings of the property, we ask for those for orientation, especially the service sign. This is so we're not, the Blue Cloud Lane is not, it's considered an easement, so the public wouldn't be, as the city considers it, the public wouldn't be using that, so it wouldn't, make any sense to orient any of the signs, especially on the one, which would be the south one, to that lane. And then any other signage, there's not a lot of, there are on the northern side of the buildings for help with orientation. And then when you get around, for customers still see where that service entrance is. These are the dimensions. I'm sure that's all in your packet too. But here's where the service sign would be. And then the cornices or the architectural structure there for the main entrance. This is the more the southern bound building. it was designed and built, it's as built for their bigger signs, but they were able to get like the smaller sign. It will still work there, asking for that variance to be able to keep their branding consistent then. And really these are similar size. This is the smaller building then as you first come in, and you move south on the property. So, and then same sign map. So in the end, we're just asking for safety wayfinding moving forward. It will increase the safety for those using the freeway and exiting the freeway to get that need these services to help orient better once they're on the property. The
Time.
Okay, and then the so yeah, and we'll guide the truck drivers away from the Blue Valley Mobile Home Park neighborhood if we're all oriented to where we're getting off at Eisman. We don't have to worry about any Gowan exits. And then the shape of the property has and the I guess the determination that Blue Cloud Lane is an easement. And so there won't be that entrance off of Blue Cloud, but up on the north side of the property for the signage, of course, there at the entrance. After they've, seen it from the highway to be able to get to it, then orient to a similar sign in the entrance. So there's no, we're saying that there's not we're not seeking a grant of specific or any special privilege. They're only one. The neighboring parcel is the one right to the south at the exit with a giant sign, which is right. The sign itself, from what I understand, is on a small parcel outside of the city limits, but the truck stop is still there, and they still have orienting signs that for their weigh station or their scales. And yeah, so seeking the same privileges that others that are serving the trucking community there on the same corridor, and ask that variance be given here. Well, I'll wait and
All right.
we'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mel.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone here from the South Eisenman Neighborhood Association? And I bet your name is Linda Puccinelli. Ms. Puccinelli, your 10 minutes of fame starts now. Well, at least here.
Okay.
You might be otherwise. Pull that down just
One never knows.
one never. Can you give your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Linda Puccinelli.
Ms. Puccinelli.
I am president of the South Eisman Neighborhood Association. I also live in Blue Valley Manufactured Parking, which is also part of the Neighborhood Association. We are asking the Planning and Development to deny the Peterbilt request for a commercial sign variance of 60 feet. As noted, there is a current 60-foot sign on the run, and it is just outside the city limits. And so therefore, that's why they've been able to do it. I did submit a written picture of that sign at 60 feet that even if you're coming from Gowan to down South Eisenman toward Blue Valley Park, a quarter a mile to a half a mile away from the park north, you can clearly see that sign. So by the time you get to the manufactured home park, whether you're on the north or south side, that sign clearly reflects into the park, which then affects the quality of life for the residents within the park. Our other concern, if this variance would be allowed, is the cascade effect. If a variance is allowed, then other commercials, even though there are other commercials up and down Eisenman, their signs are not intrusive. If this is allowed, I could foresee that others could come back and wanting height variances or even new development wanting equal height variances, which at that point would really harm the quality of life within Blue Valley Park. As far as I know, the development code for signs has already gone through the public, and we see no reason to provide an exception for this application because it would be and continue to be a negative effect on our homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Puccinelli. Okay, I have a couple of questions. Let's start with Matt, and Mr. Mel will then roll to you. Matt, could you pull up the site diagram that shows each one of the signs that reflect the current, i.e. late correspondence adjusted proposal? Okay, so I just want to make sure I get this. So I'll talk and then ask you to correct me, because that's how it works best. So the applicant is proposing 5 signs in total. 4 of them face Interstate 84. Is that correct?
Mr. Gillespie, the applicant is proposing additional signage. There are
I see 5 signs,
there are 5 signs included within the variance request.
and 4 of them face Interstate 84.
Correct.
Okay. I'm not understanding exactly what our code says about why they can't have signs facing Interstate 84. Can you tell me what I'm missing in the code? Is it the idea that all the signs has to face the front door, so to speak?
Mr. Gillespie, that's part of it. The sign standards require the freestanding sign to be oriented toward the main entrance of the site.
Okay.
So that on top of reducing the amount of visual clutter along
Right, right.
interstates.
But what about, why can't they have 3 wall signs looking at I-84 or visible from I-84?
Mr. Gillespie, the difference is the variance requests themselves. So the sign types themselves, the freestanding signs, are outright prohibited. The wall standing signs, you're allowed 1 sign to face the interstate per development.
So you can, but the other 2 could face where? The front door?
Mr. Gillespie, the signage should be directed towards the front of the parcel, the entrance of the parcel to the maximum extent practical, although they can face side property lines if it's substituted from that front.
What does substituted from that front mean?
So there's a additional.
Oh, you mean take 1 sign and.
You're allowed basically 10% of each of the front facade to be the signage area. You can substitute that to a separate wall sign as long as that substituted wall, it is less than 10% of that wall as well.
Right. So I'm just trying to get at exactly what the problem here. So first of all, let's take away all the dimensional issues. Like just assume that every sign is dimensionally conforming. Okay. Then, as I understand they still have a problem and would need a variance for, they have an extra freestanding sign and the 3 wall signs need to face the other way or be on the other side of the building.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. But they don't want to move those 3 wall signs to the other side of the building because from their point of view, the front of the building where the action is from their business is on the other side, right? Because that's
Yes.
where the trucks are going. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I understand all this. Mr. Mal, do you have any comments on my incisive analysis? So I'm just trying to understand exactly. Could you come on up and just say, so your argument, as I understand it, is you really want the wall signs facing I-84 because that's where the action is from your point of view. And you want people to see those signs and get off at the next exit, which is Eisenman. Is that right?
Yeah, that's part of it, but part of on site as well. The garage doors were on that side as well.
What is that? I don't know what that means.
Like the service on the southern building. Yeah, do you see the three, like that top picture, the
Yeah.
three white boxes? That's
Yeah,
so as they orient, so that is facing east. So if they orient on the property, they, you know, the service is on that side. So we want them to see that there's a sign that says the service is on that
okay,
side.
can you go back to the one with, we were looking at before? So where's that service sign on, is it referenced on these?
It's, yeah, so the arrows, there was the two green arrows going, pointing to that bottom building. It was the northern one of that two arrows there where his cursor is.
Oh, you
there.
just wanted to say service.
Yeah, that one will say service. And the other one is their main entrance, that higher architectural where for the branding to be similar there.
So your idea is that people are going to read that service sign as they're kind of driving through that drive aisle where the E is in the circle. Because they're not going to read that service sign from the freeway.
No, they're not gonna be, I don't think they're
You
gonna be able to see that one.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't either.
And
So,
now that we've reduced the other.
but that's,
Peterbilt,
you want it there because,
that's our service center. That's our service door. That was where
could
the
you
door
zoom
from
out
our,
this, could you get rid of all the stuff on the side? Thanks.
so yeah, our elevation showed that
Okay,
service door was where the service entrance for people to enter, not the trucks to enter.
okay. And why are you before the city asking for an extra freestanding sign? Like, why do you need the? So let me let you answer instead. It's very
Yeah,
short.
no. The like what is available out there or what is noticeable out there, right? It's almost on the way out of town. It's right on the freeway. It's like a dealership. That one build, you know, part of it's for a dealership, the part is for service. So because of the weird entrance, we did add that one to the freestanding one that you
At the
know,
up at northwest
Yeah.
corner,
and I understand.
because
you
it's
know,
hard to find the entrance.
Yeah.
Okay,
And you know, and I think in the end, without a variance, we could still get that one, I guess, but we're looking to see what would help
right, I get it.
everything to be able to orient correctly. And so it's like, yeah, that bottom corner is then be more,
Important.
yeah, to our client for
Okay.
sure. But then the other one, of course, if that's all we can get, that does help them find, okay, this is where you know,
Peterbilt
you get
is,
in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Puccinelli, I have a question. Can you step to the mic? And as usual, you're going to have to give your name and address for the
My
record.
name's Linda Puccinelli, President of the South Isoman Association at 2247 Blue Lake Lane.
So, you raised issues with, the brightness of some of the existing signs in this area. And is that an issue for the residents?
That is correct.
And-
They-
And on this map, where are the residents? I just want to make sure we all understand.
Okay.
So
Isoman.
they're
okay.
to the west and a little bit south. Is that right?
Okay. Blue Valley, if you're going where you see subject property and you see the Isoman Road, if you head due north by about, I would say, a half a mile, it is the manufactured park does face directly on Isoman. So
I just want to make sure I understand. I don't have a pointer or anything. Sorry, this won't be on the record. You guys can have a condition fit. But so like you guys are like way over here, right? Cause you come down or way over here. Yeah, here's Eisen. You're like over here, right? Right. And you're on the this side of Isom, the south side, right?
We're on the, I guess, west.
Right. Okay. Okay, all right. Stay there, I have it. I just want to make sure.
You got it.
It's really confusing out there, by the way, because it's this weird street, you know. Okay, so my question is. So. Can we pull back up the sign? Dealy Wop. The one with the green arrows. So that freestanding sign at the very bottom of this, where the north, where it says N,
Right.
you know, done. That's, you're not gonna, is that one gonna be a problem for?
Yes.
Why is that?
At 60 feet, as I showed, actually I had a picture that I
remember
submitted
it.
in my written.
Yeah.
At 60 feet, it will go above buildings and then therefore reflect straight down Iseman,
Yeah.
as well
Off
as
the lake.
no, I wish.
Okay,
But it will shoot down
I
84,
got it.
but it'll
Yeah.
also shoot down straight down Iseman into the park.
If that sign conforms, how tall is it? If it, because the stipulation in all this is that the signs and the heights are all conforming, period.
Mr. Gillespie, the maximum height of a freestanding sign in the I-1 zone is 15 feet. The late correspondence submitted had a 15-foot tall sign
Correct.
in that corner.
Correct. So Ms. Puccinelli,
50
what they're
foot would be
proposing is to
acceptable.
reduce it to 15 feet.
Yeah, that would be acceptable.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. I don't have any more questions. I have 3 people on the sign-up sheet. So we'll go through their testimony if they want. And then, Mr. Mal, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal. So the first person is Linda, but Linda's already talked, so you can waive your spot. The next person is Ron. Her eldest son is my guess.
Must be. Yeah, Ron Puccinelli, 2247 Blue Lake Lane. Also the vice president of the association.
Welcome, Mr. Puccinelli.
We did not know that the 60-foot sign had reduced to 15 feet.
No.
If it has, then that's our objection.
I understand.
We also did not know that there was a second sign
Up on the corner.
proposed in the corner.
Yeah.
That's also limited to 15 feet, my understanding,
You could continue, yes,
Okay.
in their,
which would in effect put it below the level of the R&L trucking company between us and the park. Again, it's not a problem with us. We're just here to reiterate what our residents have told us
Right.
about the
Sign.
sign up on the run, which is disturbing to them. So at that point, then we have no objection.
thank you, sir. The next person on the sign up sheet is Susan Yeager. And Susan, you're welcome to speak or waive your, okay. So Susan has waived her right to speak at this time. So is there anybody on the sign up or online?
Mr. Gillespie, I do have a KC that joined late, so I'll just let them know if they do want to speak to please virtually raise their hand.
Casey, we're trying to get you hooked up. Are you there?
But we don't know if they would like to speak or not. They may
Okay.
just be tuning
All right.
in, and I'm
Oh,
not
you're-
seeing a raised hand, so
Are you-
I'll let you know if it pops up here in a second.
Okay.
I think we can move on. Yeah, Mr. Gillespie, I'm not seeing a
Okay, we can, if she really wants to, why don't we just wait 30 seconds? And I'll just, what's her name?
KC. Or
KC?
the two letters on that.
Okay, we're going to move on. Mr. Mal, you have up to 5 minutes for rebuttal.
All right, thanks. I don't think I'll take it, but yeah, as recognized, it is kind of the way the streets are set up out there and the access is, it is as you have said, kind of a weird street. And because of that, we want to orient the property to use it as well as we can for safety and for orientation for all the trucks. There is 2 buildings. We do understand, you know, when the code says like establishment, and we, you know, we would ask that we'd be able to do one for each building to allow for that flow of traffic better. And to utilize
what
those
for
buildings.
each building?
The what?
The freestanding sign?
No, the wall signs. Thank you
Okay.
for that clarification. Yeah. And then for the freestanding, yeah, we want for the whole access as coming off the freeway and then trying, you know, coming around Eisman. I don't know what is going to happen with that. You know, I imagine when we start using this building and having 35 to 40 services a day, that's what has been utilized at the other location, about 35 to 40 visits a day for trucks. You know, if there's going to be any issues with that Blue Cloud Lane easement being used, and we're hoping that the orientation around Eisman is used, you know, correctly, that there won't be any problems. It'll probably be easier for a truck to come in that way for turning purposes and not have a sharp turn there at the end of the right there, you know, along that fence line that turns sharp. And so the freestanding signs, we ask, you know, for that orientation to help. We did try to, you know, limit the size, recognize that, you know, the variance wouldn't work for the 60 foot. We brought it down to the 15 and just seek the city to work with us to use this property to its full potential. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So Matt, I'm going to need your help, and Kevin, yours too, just to get my decision just worded correctly. So basically, I'm going to approve part of the variance and deny part of the variance. Let me tell you just in straight words what I'd like to do, and then we can just see if that works in your language. So I'd like to grant the variance for the second freestanding sign. So for purposes of discussion, that would be the one, to me, the freestanding sign that would be allowed by code is the northwest one by the entrance, right? And the one that needs a variance then is the southeast one down at the corner, which is essentially the freeway advertising. So I'm granting a variance for them to have that second one. Across all of the application, everything has to conform to the design standards in terms of size and height and lighting and, you know, all that stuff. So I'm not granting any variances around size, height, all the, you know, there's all those strange parts of the sign code related to flashing and changing, and no variances for that. Now, with respect to what I see as the 3 wall signs, again, they have to be dimensionally conforming, and I will grant them a variance to have them facing essentially, what is that? East or toward the freeway, right? Because of the orientation of their site and because of like the way the buildings are and the fact that really it's very hard to understand on this one what the front of the site is, right? And I do not want trucks kind of getting lost and driving all around that side of town. That's just a bad idea. If at some point in the future, Blue Cloud Lane opens up, I think they're going to be back and want to change the way the signage works. And that's appropriate because, again, we don't want trucks kind of, where the hell am I now? I think there's an interesting question as to whether physical signage is necessary in this day and age of, you know, Apple Maps and self-driving this and that. But putting that aside, I think it's reasonable. And there is kind of this hardship associated with the fact that the entrance is in a really obscure place and the freeway is where all this traffic is bombing down. So does that, can you guys craft? I just want to make sure I address every aspect of the variance.
Yeah, Mr. Gillespie, I think the freestanding signs make sense. So now we'll have the ability to have 2 freestanding signs where normally there would only be 1.
Well, and in those
And-
places.
Yep, and one of them would be able to face I-84. So that makes
Right.
sense. It might be easiest just to word the wall signs to treat I-84 as if it were another frontage, because then we could just apply those dimensional standards to those signs. Because right now that's not the way it's written in code.
All right.
And I think
so
it gets to what
let me make
you're
the,
trying.
then I will amend, like, okay, so I agree with you. That's a good solution. Why don't we allow, for purposes of signage only, for I-84 to be treated as frontage? But again, all the signs have to still be conforming. And that freestanding sign in the upper left, I think it should be treated as frontage as well, in the sense of, because it's where, like, we want trucks to be able to see it so they don't wander around aimlessly through these folks' neighborhood. Okay. All right. Thanks. That's my decision. We're done.